Um, so hi everyone. So my name is Rich Lair. I am the education coordinator for the Enable Community Foundation, and I was going to do a little presentation on ECF and our the work that we've been doing with students and 3D printed prosthetics around the world. What I would like to do to just give you a little information about myself. So I am the education coordinator for the Enable Community Foundation. I also teach at Brookwood School in Manchester, Massachusetts. We're about an hour north of Boston, and I'm half-time here as their innovation coordinator, and I'm also a national faculty member for the Buck Institute for Education. I'll go ahead and turn on my camera, so I have some things to show you as well as the presentation. So in addition to those things, most importantly, I'm also a father of two beautiful little kids. I have a picture here of my son Max because I am here speaking to you because of Max. So we'll talk a little bit about that as the presentation goes on. What I did want to do was personalize this presentation a little bit to let you know that there are actual kids behind the work that is done here. The devices that we get built get sent to actual kids around the world, including my son, who is the recipient, and there he is, both using one of his devices to ride his bike in the 4th of July parade. He's also using a little clip built by my students to drive his bike, hold onto the handlebars. And so we're going to talk a little bit just about how we got from where this started to where we are right now. So I want just a brief overview of what we're going to talk about, and then I'll take any questions that folks have. So I want to tell a little bit about my own story and Max's story, and then what we've been doing here at Brookwood. I would like to share just the short but amazing story of 3D printed prosthetics. 5 years, over the past 5 years, some incredible things have been happening. I want to talk a little bit about ECF, the Enable Community Foundation, and how to involve your school. I would like to also talk about the curriculum that we are in the process of developing and about to release, and some possible directions that schools can take with this work. I want to share a little bit of information about ECF and the change in directions and broadening of the directions of our foundation as well, and then there'll be a chance to ask questions at the end. So essentially, this whole story starts with something called the RoboHand, and some of the viewers of this may be familiar with the story, but I'll do a quick brief overview of it just because I think it's informative for students and it's interesting as well. So on May the 7th, 2011, this whole thing kicked off. The fellow that you see there, his name is Richard Van Az. He sustained a tragic shop accident in which he removed a couple of the fingers off of his right hand in an accident. And Richard tells the story of being in the emergency room and already starting to think about possible ways to develop a prosthetic device for himself. He ended up collaborating with an inventor and designer from Washington State by the name of Ivan Owen, and together the two of them created a small little metal prosthetic finger for him. And from there, they took that same idea of the prosthetic, and a friend of Richard's family had a son who was born without the fingers on his right hand, and so they created a small little version of that for that boy. And at that point, somebody let them know about the idea of 3D designing and 3D printing. They realized that they could take the designs that they were working on in metal, and if they did them in a 3D design program, they would then be able to share those designs, and anybody with a 3D printer would be able to download the components. So this is the RoboHand that they created, 2012. It was created. They actually were working with MakerBot, realized that they were onto something special, so MakerBot made a couple of donations of printers. They also did a little video of the work that they had been doing because they realized that not only could anybody download the devices that were produced, but they could essentially provide mechanical prosthetics for anybody who needed one through this work, provided they could track in a 3D printer. So in 2013, I came across that video when I saw the video, I realized that there may be possibilities for my son. So Max was born with a condition called symbrachydactyly that affected the development of his right fingers as well. A very similar condition to the boy that they had been actually building a prosthetic for. So I Skyped with Richard in South Africa, and we started the conversation with him asking if there'd be a possibility for us to arrange it so that he could send us a device, and that's how the conversation started, and the conversation finished with me sort of sharing some information about Max's hand and a little bit of information about the device that might be appropriate for him. And at the end of the conversation, I had this idea that this might make an incredible project for my 8th graders. So we decided that we would go ahead and do this project over the course of the year. We made a year-long project. We had a club of 12 8th graders. We divided that group into 3 different groups. A group that was charged with finding a 3D printer, a group that was charged with finding the thermoplastic that everything gets attached to, and a group that was charged with finding the metal hardware that it goes to. And we were trying to answer the question, can we build a hand for Mr. Lair's son? And I'm happy to report that the answer to that was yes. So at the end of the 2013-14 school year, my students had built a mechanical device for my son that he could use to pick things up. This launched Max into the world of people working with him to create devices for him, launched my students into this world of authentic designing and engineering, and launched me into this world of 3D printing and 3D printed devices that has resulted in me sitting before you right now. Interestingly, I was not the only one to have seen that initial video that Richard and Ivan put together with MakerBot. This gentleman, John Scholl, John's a professor at Rochester Institute of Technology. He also saw the video, and John came up with an idea that if they could create a platform whereby anybody with a 3D printer could put themselves on a map, and any family that might be interested in receiving a device could put themselves on a map, then there would be a possibility to match them. So John created an organization called Enable, created a Google Plus community, and essentially had the platform by where people with printers and people needing devices could be matched. That's how it began, and in fact, there are still some elements of what Enable does that are still along those lines. But what that community early on in 2013 also realized was, in addition to matching devices with recipients, because all of the files are downloadable and modifiable, they realized that it's also possible for members of the community to redesign the initial device. So you can see there some of the endpoints of some of those designs. Over 2 to 3 years, hundreds and hundreds of iterations, we have some pretty sophisticated 3D printable devices now. So additionally, John and Marla Parker created an actual foundation called the Enable Community Foundation in 2014. And ECF, as we refer to it, is a 501c3 foundation, and that is for whom I work now. Interestingly, so in addition to tinkerers and prosthetists and engineers and medical professionals, what ECF started to see were a lot of teachers that were coming to this work because of the potential both to involve their students in some really profound, authentic work, but also what was happening is a lot of schools were purchasing 3D printers and not really knowing what to do with them. So ECF provided, and especially ECF's piece where they actually have the devices made by schools get sent to actual recipients, that provided a hugely compelling reason for schools to become involved. So schools began to come to ECF because of that potential, and that's the point at which I became involved. So my background, in addition to teaching 8th grade science, when I came to ECF, I was also a national faculty member for the Buck Institute for Education. We do project-based learning and teacher training in project-based learning. Additionally, I was working as an advisor for WGBH's PBS Kids program Design Squad Global, and they had done a little video of the project that we had been doing with Max at our school. And so that pushed me towards communicating with John, and together with John and some other folks at ECF in 2015 we created our ECF Education Initiative. In its initial formation it was called the E3 STEAM, and we're in the process of rebranding that too. So we essentially started this with 4 primary goals. Really the overarching goal was to meet the needs of the hundreds of educators that were coming to this work. But a little bit more specifically, what we wanted to do was connect educators around the world and students around the world that were coming to this work. We wanted to inspire a generation of makers and tinkerers with this really powerful model of what's possible with technology and great ideas and a good heart. And we wanted to empower kids to become designers of solutions, not just in terms of 3D printed prosthetics, but also solutions in their own lives, in their communities, and around the world. And lastly, we were hoping to encourage kids to create things that make a difference and things that have meaning for themselves and potentially for others as well. So most people who come to our organization, most schools that come to our organization come for that reason. They see potential for us to provide the opportunity for them to involve their students in some incredible making experiences. So most schools come to us because of the potential for building devices. And I'm showing you here just a very brief overview of the devices that have been created by members of the Enable community, but we have them on our website, and there are open source, free, downloadable devices that anybody can access. And by clicking any of these devices, schools can then receive the files, and if you have a 3D printer, you can then print the components and then assemble a device that can then get sent into ECF to hopefully eventually make it to an actual recipient, a child with an upper limb difference. That's not the only place that devices go. We also are noticing that devices provide great impetus for creating interest for students in STEM, and so some of our devices fill that function too. They go to schools to kind of stoke the fires. We represent at many different conferences, and we take devices with us, and students and children that are involved in those conferences or come by us, we share them with them as well, just to continue to kind of fan those flames and spark enthusiasm in what we're doing. So our website is www.enablecommunityfoundation.org. And if you were to go there, you would find not only the information about the devices that I was sharing with you there, but also information about how to become registered with ECF. We typically ask that schools create a test hand so that we can see the quality of their build, the quality of their 3D printing, and also the quality of their build as well. And once approved, then schools are on their way building devices for us. And schools typically send their devices to us into our device pool, from which they get selected for those different functions that I was telling you about. Interestingly, we're seeing some real incredible potential for educational experiences beyond just the simple building of hands and sending them in. And that's what I wanted to focus on a little bit right now. So we realized up until about 2 or 3 months ago, our curriculum side of what we did was completely crowdsourced. In the same way that we were crowdsourcing the designing of devices for our organization, we were also crowdsourcing the education side. Anybody who had an interesting take on the education uses of this work could submit their curriculum, and we would post it to the website. We realized that there was great both interest and need for an actual ECF official curriculum, so we went ahead and started working on that. The names that you see on the screen in front of you there, those are teachers who have been doing either deep work with us through 3D printed prosthetics, or other people who have expressed interest in taking this work in different directions. And so this illustrious group has been working with Justine Diamond and myself to create curriculum. We are aiming to release, we have it in a draft form right now, but we're aiming to release our curriculum on October the 1st so that anybody around the world can access it and can both create devices and build devices, but also can use this as an opportunity to teach their students some really interesting design and STEM applications. I thought I would just very, very quickly shoot you the overview of our curriculum. We've broken it into 7 modules, certainly providing some context for this work. What are upper limb differences? How do they happen? What are prosthetics? A little bit about the history of prosthetics, but then also examples of kids around the world doing incredible things. From there, we provide lessons on the actual kind of meat and potatoes of our website, how to actually print the devices that are on our website. And we actually steer schools towards 3 of those 19 devices. Typically the 3 devices that schools build are Raptors, Raptor Reloaded, and Phoenix version 2. And one of the reasons why we kind of steer schools towards those 3 devices is just because of the educational resources that accompany them that help schools kind of know how these things go together. In addition to just information about how to print them and how to construct them and using those as opportunities to educate kids about technology and 3D printing specifically, we're also creating resources for the science behind the devices there, so that any science or STEM teachers that want to teach their kids use the project to teach their students STEM concepts will have tools to do that. We're actually creating a repository where students can submit their educational tools that explain the role of friction or elastic potential energy or forces. So we're actually crowdsourcing that as an authentic opportunity for kids to do some contributions to our work. Additionally, we have lessons on personalizing and customizing the devices. So we see a lot of schools interested in designing and customizing the devices. So that could be a superhero hand, or that could be a frozen Elsa hand. And so we're providing some instructions on how to do that, and a little bit about how to maybe engage the art department in the work at your school. We're also looking at getting some students to do some actual functional designing as well, and I'm going to tell a little bit about that in a second, but we are encouraging schools to also contribute designs for the more functional pieces to our website as well. So there will be banks for all of these things for schools to submit their work as well. So once we've actually released the curriculum, it'll be on the ECF website, so please check there. So we also see tons of different ways that schools can use this work to, in some cases, push the envelope a little bit and get students to do all sorts of things. We embrace this. We love the fact that creative education experts are taking this work in directions, in some cases, that we never even expected. So that is just a laundry list of some of the different things that educators around the world are doing with our work. But as I was mentioning, I wanted to really focus on the student designing piece, because that's where a lot of schools are seeing some really exciting pieces. So I wanted to just do a quick focus on, as a little case study on what we've been doing here at Brookwood School. We've started with the 3D printed prosthetics as an entry point into the idea of authentic designing and building. What we've been able to do is leverage that to create some other opportunities for kids to do some authentic engineering and designing. The real kind of impetus for this work has been this device that I have shown here. A group from Seattle Pacific University, Professor Adam Arabian and his students, one in particular, Justin Leviguer, they created essentially it's an adapter that goes over the hand, and you can kind of see how it straps onto the hand there, but I wanted to just really quickly show it. This piece right here, the red piece, is a removable piece and can be designed by, this was designed by a 6th grade student, that allows Max to clip into the handle of a scooter. And so essentially this works, the hands that we've created, the adapters go over it, and then kids can design this. And again, this piece right here just slides out of here and is removable, and pretty simple but powerful design opportunity. So you'll see the link there in Thingiverse for the adapter, and that's one thing that certainly our school did with great success in terms of having the kids do some actual authentic designing. What we decided to do was actually leverage this a little bit and start to look at other ways to design. And we take the approach that we want kids to design for self, for school, and for the world, for self and school, for their community, and for the world, global design. So what we've been doing there, in addition to the clips that I showed you, we've had our students doing some designing here at our school. So we created a what is called the Brookwood Problem Bank, and this is just an online website where anybody in our school community can submit a problem in need of a design solution, and then our students become the designers. They pluck the problems from the problem bank, and then they enter into a reciprocal and iterative relationship with the person that posted the problem, and they design the solutions and actual solutions for the problems posted there. Additionally, we've taken that model and taken it out into the community. We work with a local seniors residence where our students go there and essentially do the same thing. They interview the residents, they talk to them about places in their life where maybe some authentic solutions may provide an improvement in the quality of life, and then they go ahead and design, and you can see some of the fruits of their labors right there. And thirdly, we're also involved in some designing for the world. So we have a couple of partner schools, and we've been working with them to take that idea of authentic 3D designing to their school as well. And that's one of the exciting parts about this presentation, is just the idea that there might be schools around the world that are inspiring their kids with authentic design opportunities. These two photos here are of our partner school in Kigali, Rwanda, the Fawe Girls School, who have now got a 3D printer, and they're actually working with us in co-developing some of these resources. So, very quickly, I want to just sort of share with you some of the new directions for ECF, and then we'll have a chance to see if there are questions. So some interesting things and some exciting things have been happening in the world of 3D printed prosthetics. ECF received some generous grants from foundations, Google.org, the Autodesk Foundation, the J.M. Kaplan Foundation provided us with the funds to really start to develop some of the ideas and initiatives that members of our foundation had. In addition to the work that I've just been telling you about in our education wing, where we are inspiring kids to become involved through becoming digital humanitarians, ECF has really been experiencing some exciting developments in terms of our global scaling of our work. What we've been doing is we have a program in Haiti where we've been, we started just to sort of see what is the capacity for interest in the Raptor and Raptor Reloaded hands that I was showing you before. And we took a number of devices very similar to this, brightly colored devices, superhero devices. We took them to Haiti, and what we noticed was there was little, if any, interest in these devices. And what we found out was that in Haiti, what is being looked for is not necessarily mechanical devices, but it is cosmetic, authentic, hyper-realistic devices that allow people to sort of fly under the radar a little bit. And that we realized there was a potential there to begin to address the global need for prosthetics, not necessarily mechanical prosthetics, but also cosmetic prosthetics that allow people to function in their society. And so we've been using our Enable International Haiti project as a chance to really break ground there. One of the really exciting pieces is that members of our community, including one of our board members, Andreas Bastian, who's also a research scientist for Autodesk, has been working with a team to develop a design platform called LimForge. And LimForge is a revolutionary design tool that allows anybody, anywhere, to create highly sophisticated but also customizable cosmetic devices. And the way it works is it allows a team here to create a massive library or bank of device designs, and then somebody, for example, in Haiti, doesn't have to do the on-the-fly designing there because of low bandwidth. That can sometimes be tricky to do the actual designing with some of the programs that require a little bit more bandwidth. And what LimForge allows is people around the world to access this bank of realistic 3D printable cosmetic devices, and making it so that anybody can customize a device anywhere for any patient. And this is the new direction of our work, but certainly a really exciting direction, and direction that is just filled with potential. And certainly our education initiatives will come along also to start incorporating that as well. Next moves for our education initiative. So we received a nice Silicon Valley Education Foundation STEM grant last year that's helping us move our work forward. We're looking to deepen our work, moving away from having schools just submitting one-off designs, but actually having them enter into longer-term relationships with recipients. We're really getting a lot of exciting feedback in terms of just the value of the devices beyond just gifting it to a recipient, using them to stoke the fires of interest in STEM and design and engineering and medical technology. As I mentioned, we're developing the curriculum, which is, we're excited. We're actually presenting at the World Maker Faire on October the 2nd, and so we'll release the curriculum in association with that presentation. And we're also looking to globally scale our work as well. So that's exciting to also be looking at taking the education in an interesting direction as well. At this point, I thought I would open it up to see if there are any questions. But of course, if there are not questions, anybody who's watching this video either in real time or recorded version, it would be possible to email me. So my email address is rleher, that's R-L-E-H-R-E-R, at enablecommunityfoundation.org. And you can shoot me an email. You'll be able to find me on the ECF website as well. That's www.enablecommunityfoundation.org. And feel free to shoot me an email and ask any questions. And we would love to have as many schools join this work as possible. I should just mention finally that even if you don't have a 3D printer, there is potential to be involved. We're constructing our lessons so that schools, even without a 3D printer, can become involved. And there's also potential to receive parts printed by another school, and schools can then build the hands and have the same education experiences without necessarily needing that. So thank you very much for viewing this webinar or the video afterwards, and we'll see if there's any questions.